What is going on, you beautiful bastards? Welcome back to the channel. At the end of the video, if you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. Alright, so quick heads up before we dive into the video today. I'm feeling a little bit under the weather. Voice is a little bit shitty, a little bit shot. So if I sound like I have the monkeypox, just, know that I definitely do have the monkeypox. But yeah, I want to talk today about October, the month of October. So each month, or at the end of each month, I look through Game Informer's release date schedule, and I scroll through it, see what, I need to kind of put some money away for that month to pick up whatever new game is releasing. So I scroll through and I'm like, okay, that game looks interesting. Let me see how much that is. See if it's going to be something I'm picking up for the coming month. And so I was doing that for October, and I began scrolling through the list for October, the games releasing in October. And I'm like, what the fuck? When did this line up? When did this release schedule for October start filling up the way it's filled up at this point? Like, it is undoubtedly, at least in my opinion, the most stacked month of 2022 so far. And maybe it's just a me thing, because there are a lot of me-ass games on this list. But even I started scrolling through and like seeing a bunch of huge heavy hitter titles that I'm not interested in at all, but they're releasing in October, and they're going to have, millions and billions and cajillions of fucking people jumping into them. So I just think October is like, it's one of those months in gaming that kind of has a little bit for everybody. So let's not delay the inevitable here, and let's dive into the games I am wanting to check out in October. We'll go through those, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the games releasing in October that aren't necessarily up my alley, but still, pretty important, kind of huge releases. So the first game dropping in October that has caught my eye, it's not a big title or anything, but it's, and I'm going to butcher this name probably, Asturgios Curse of the Stars, dropping on October 11th. And this appears to be like an action RPG, combining kind of Souls-like gameplay with some decision making that is supposedly going to actually have like consequences, and it's actually going to matter in the storyline. So that is obviously the thing that caught me immediately. I really don't, I'm not the biggest Souls guy at all, but I love choice and consequence. I love seeing how decision making and how, your choices can kind of impact the narrative. I love diving into games that have that feature, and I think that's a cool addition to the Souls-like genre. So that caught my attention. Plus, you're getting a bunch of like seemingly, different weapons that you can use and combine and customize and upgrade. And it has like a kind of Immortals Phoenix Rising look visually to it that I'm down for this. I think I am going to check it out. I think it's only like $39. But see, that's the thing too with October. It's one of those months where it's like, if you went into October and bought everything that you're interested in playing, at least for me, by November, I'm sleeping on the fucking street. I'm not going to be able to pay my bills for October if I bought all these damn games. So it's going to be like one of those months where you have to make some sacrifices here. And I'm not going to lie, that Asturgios Curse of the Stars game, like that could be one that I sacrifice, but with it coming early, you might get an impulse buy out of my dumb ass. So who knows? No More Heroes 3 also dropping October 11th for the next gen consoles. this is one that I loved on the Switch. It's just great to see it coming to next-gen consoles where you can actually play it with a stable, decent frame rate and, just have a overall better experience with a more powerful console. I definitely like to see that thing running on next-gen hardware. It's not going to be one I day one buy because I day one bought it for the Switch, but nonetheless, very excited for it. The Last Oricru. We talked about this when we were doing the predictions video for... What the hell was that video for? One of the shows. What the hell would that have been for? That would have been Gamescom, I believe, where we talked about The Last Oricru. And, it's getting released on October the 13th, and similar to that Astergeos game, it is very story focused and choice based. It kind of has like a AA action RPG, very gothic vibes, medieval setting, and it looks a little bit janky in the vein of your Elix games and shit like that, but once again, I'm a sucker for choice-based role-playing games, and I think that you can play the whole thing in couch co-op, which is an interesting little twist for the game. Is it high up on my most anticipated for October? No, but it is one that definitely caught my eye. The absolute must-play of October for me, at least one of the two absolute must-plays, is A Plague Tale Requiem, dropping October 18th, coming to Game Pass day one. So for all of you out there on Game Pass, this is one that you cannot miss. I do believe they just took A Plague Tale Innocence off of Game Pass, or they took it all, or I don't know if they took it off in I think they might be taking it off in October. So you might have like a few more, a few more days to dive into Plague Tale Innocence before Requiem. I definitely recommend doing that because this is, a direct sequel to that game, and you need to know this. I'm sure they'll do some sort of rundown or update, assuming that they're going to have a much larger player base with Requiem than they had for Innocence. Just with it coming to Game Pass, you have whatever 25-30 million people subscribe to Game Pass, so you got to assume that you're going to have a large player pool for this game. So I hope they're prepared for that, but regardless, I'm so much looking forward to this. I'm so looking forward to seeing Amicia and Hugo's story, where it goes. I want to see how they evolve that world. You see the huge swarm, the huge infestation of rats that are, breaking through buildings. And I won't spoil anything about how the rats are controlled or how they operate. But let's just say there's some interesting mechanics that I'm curious to see how those play out and how what they can do different in the gameplay for A Plague Tale Requiem. But October 18th, day one, Game Pass, looking much bigger, much more expansive, much more diverse in the variety of combat that you're getting to use. So yeah, Plague Tale Requiem, I will be there day one checking you out for sure. That's one of those ones that I'm thankful that it's coming to Game Pass, just because of how stacked this month is. It's like one I can check off and go, okay, at least I don't have to buy that immediately, but I almost feel like guilty for not buying it day one because it's like my most anticipated game of the month, but also taking into the fact that they probably got paid out the ass to be on Game Pass day one. So you imagine that they would like to have a huge player count day one on Game Pass so that they can get their next game, get the bag even larger for a day one Game Pass drop for the third game. Who knows? October 20th, we are getting the port of Norco. This was only on PC earlier in the year, I believe, and now it is coming to, I believe it's coming everywhere. Let me check. Okay, so yeah, it's coming everywhere except the Switch. So it's PS5, Series consoles, last gen, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PC, everything but the Switch. But yeah, this Norco has had such critical acclaim, and it's one very Disco Elysium inspired, and I enjoy Disco Elysium quite a bit, so I'm looking forward to Norco. I have kind of tried not to read any reviews about it or anything. I've just kind of saw that the Metacritic is through the roof for Norco, and I know a lot of people are saying like it's their GOTY for 2022. So I'm looking forward to checking it out. A kind of point and click based adventure. I think it's set in Louisiana, if I'm not mistaken, and that's kind of all I know about it. But that's intentional. I don't really want to know much more about Norco, and I think it's coming to Game Pass day one as well. So that is where I will be playing Norco and A Plague Tale Requiem. October 20th for Norco, day one Game Pass. October 21st, we have Gotham Knights. And I know not everybody is super hot on Gotham Knights. I'm craving to hop back into an Arkham style of title. I love that combat system. It's my favorite flow of combat probably ever in games. I just love the counter system. It just feels so good to play. And with the introduction of the different vehicles and having a more expansive world that you can hop in and out of multiplayer on, and there's just so many compelling things there. I do obviously have my concerns with the game, about the game. I worry or wonder if they're going to be able to pull off any sort of cohesive narrative while trying to tie everything together in this multiplayer, with these multiplayer systems available at all times. But I don't know. I just hope that they can pull it off. I loved Arkham Origins, so I'm willing to give it a shot. $70, rough sell, but I'm just craving it, so I think that I probably will be there day one, unless it just gets horrible, horrible reviews. And if that's the case, I'll definitely have to put it off until it gets a price reduction. But next up on October 21st as well, new Tales from the Borderlands. And I really enjoyed the first Tales from the Borderlands, the Telltale game. And I believe this is being made internally by Gearbox. So dropping October 21st, and I think it's only like $39.99. Not a bad price point for that game. I hope it really keeps all the soul or the DNA of that Telltale game, but while maybe expanding it a little bit and having a little bit more gameplay introduced as well. But I love those dialogue trees and the dialogue systems of those Telltale games. They're so simple, fun, and you can kind of play it with your husband, your wife, your buddies, whatever, and it's just a good time to bring people together, play together, and it's also just a good narrative to kind of dive into by yourself. October 21st as well. That is a stacked fucking day. Gotham Knights, Tales from the Borderlands, and also Scorn, another Game Pass day one. So looking at this list, I kind of have my bases covered here with Plague Tale Requiem, Norco, and Scorn all getting day one Game Pass drops. So it's like, okay, at least I can check those off the list of shit I don't have to spend money on. But Scorn is, we've been seeing a lot about this first-person horror title, very H.P. Lovecraftian inspired. It looks cool. It looks cool. I'm curious to see what the moment-to-moment gameplay is actually going to be like, but it's dropping October 21st. I'm a sucker for horror games. I always want to see the latest and greatest. It definitely is an eye-catching game, so I will be diving into it, but it just sort of remains to be seen what the actual gameplay looks like with Scorn. And into October 28th, my second most anticipated game, or right there with number one, Bayonetta 3. I still have to freaking play through Bayonetta 2. I need to play through Bayonetta 2. Probably, honestly, I need to play through Bayonetta 2 before the end of September, if I can possibly swing that. But I loved Bayonetta 1, played through it for the first time last year, I believe, and just a really, really fun-ass game. And that's kind of what that's kind of what I just want from the third game. I want to see where they go with that new character, with Viola, see the different story ties, how everything kind of, ties back and forth, but more than anything, I just want to have fun beating the hell out of some crazy ass monsters, controlling the spider, running up the side of the wall, getting to use the web swinging grapple gun thing with Viola, being a swordsman hack and slash specialist with Viola, pulling out all the different, the shooting people with Bayonetta and kicking people, flying them up in the air, pulling off crazy combos, huge boss fights, and just the scale of Bayonetta 3 looks a lot just more impressive overall. Like the city environments look larger and more epic. So I'm just really down for this. This is one of those games you just go into and you're like, at least I know with this, I'm gonna have a damn good time, getting to beat the hell out of baddies while playing as a baddie. So I am down for some Bayonetta 3, October 28th, and then October 28th as well, Resident Evil Winners Expansion. And this is where you're going to be able to play as Rose, and you are going to also get the ability to play in third person. So you can go back and play through Resident Evil 8 as Ethan in third person. And also, I read an article that was saying that Shadow of Rose is going to be the kind of the closure of the Winners saga. So this is it. No more Ethan, no more Rose, no more Winners family, Mia, nobody. After Shadow of Rose, we're done with the Winners saga, and people feel differently about it. I know that there's been, people have warmed up to Ethan in a way after 8 for whatever reason, and I'm totally not in that camp at all. I'm so ready to be done with the Winners family. I think that story is ridiculous. I enjoyed it for what it was, but I really, maybe we'll dive into it a little bit more. Maybe, I don't know if I can make a full video about it, but we'll figure a way to talk about what I want next from Resident Evil. There's a lot of different things they can do, but I'm just glad that we're done with the Winners stuff. But I do want to see Rose, her story, and I want to, I believe she has the ability to freeze enemies in the Shadow of Rose DLC, but yeah, getting to play through, I probably will play through it again in third person as Ethan, just to experience that as well. And I'm not the biggest DLC guy in general, but I'm definitely looking forward to the Winners expansion on October 28th. So those are the games that I am personally wanting to check out in October. And that's a fucking ton. I mean, if you the stuff that I probably play about, I don't know, 2-3 new games each month, new releases. So here we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 games that I'm well, actually, let's take out Requiem, Norco, and Scorn. So what I say? So 6 games that I'm going to have to kind of pick and choose what to dive into here. A lot of heavy hitters. And the last Orikuru, and maybe even something like Norco, which being on Game Pass, but just talking about the overall month, I can understand how some of these things, even Scorn or the new Tales from the Borderlands game, I can see how some of these things may not appeal to like a mass audience. But even just out of that list that we went through there, I think that there's got to be something that appeals to, at least something that appeals to most people out of that list. But let's just say there's not, okay? So let's go on to the games releasing in October that aren't particularly up my alley, but are still pretty damn, like, big releases typically. So, because a lot of these are franchises. So let's start it off with Overwatch 2. Sequel to one of the biggest games of all time. I mean, I don't know if that's accurate, but I remember when Overwatch came out, it definitely felt like it was one of the biggest games of all time. And I don't really know anything about these games, if I'm being totally honest, but I know that fan base is huge. So the sequel to that, October 4th. Dragon Ball The Breakers, October 14th. I think this is that asymmetric Dead by Daylight kind of inspired title, but in the Dragon Ball universe. That's going to probably be pretty fucking huge. October 14th. NHL 2023, October 14th. PGA 2023, October 14th. Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, October 20th. That's one maybe I could have put Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope in the games releasing in October that I want to check out, because I do want to check that out. I'm not going to, well, I guess, no, because everything that I put in the games releasing in October that I want to check out category, I am more like debating on buying it, debating on if I would buy it day one or not. Whereas with Mario Rabbids Sparks of Hope, I probably wouldn't buy that day one. I know I wouldn't buy that day one, but I will check it out on a sale probably at some point. So yeah, Persona 5 Royal coming to Game Pass in next-gen consoles October 21st. And this is just a huge one for Xbox players in general. I know that JRPGs typically don't do incredibly well on Xbox, or I guess I should more say that their JRPGs are lacking a big presence on Xbox. So this is a huge, get for Game Pass for Xbox. So I'm assuming that will do well, or at least I hope it does well, and can ensure that, future Atlas titles and future just JRPGs in general drop on Xbox day one. And then we have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 on October 28th. So across the board, this is a stacked fucking month. Just looking at this alone in terms of like games that are going to sell gangbusters. Modern Warfare 2, Overwatch 2, both the PGA and NHL games are going to do crazy numbers. Dragon Ball The Breakers is going to do crazy numbers just with it being a Dragon Ball game. And then I assume Gotham Knights will probably do pretty damn well. Bayonetta 3, I think, is going to blow the roof off the sales figures that they're expecting over there at Nintendo. Because you look at like Metroid Dread, and you look at almost every game that is released on the Switch within the last like couple years, exclusive to that platform, and the Splatoon 3, just the sales that Switch games in the last, I'd say, 3 years have been getting are staggering, man. And so I think Bayonetta 3 will probably fall in line with that as well. And yeah, even something like Tales from the Borderlands, that's a big ass franchise. Well, Borderlands is a big ass franchise, so who knows, that could potentially have some big blow up if it ends up reviewing real well. Mario and Rabbids, like, this is just a very, very stacked month for people like me who, maybe dabble around and like to check out a bunch of different things. But even people who are like I'm a dedicated fan to this franchise or that franchise. Like, there's just a little bit of something for everybody in October. And it's, I mean, February was a stacked month with, that would have been Dying Light, Horizon, Elden Ring, I believe Sifu was February, and I think there's another big release in February. So February and October are kind of close, but I would still say, just in terms of variety, I think October is probably the biggest month in 2022 for gaming so far. And with this year being a little bit down in terms of big heavy hitting new releases, it's great to see a month like this come along and kind of get us over that slump a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and hop off here and tend to my monkeypox. But I appreciate you all for watching. And if you guys have any games you're looking forward to in October that I didn't mention, be sure to drop a comment of what they are down below. Anything that you think might be going under the radar a little bit, I would love to check it out and, potentially dive into it. Well, potentially dive into it at a way later date, because that plate is already looking pretty freaking full. So yeah, but I appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.